Distinguished panelists and dear participants, welcome to joint webinar on Center for Diplomacy and Development, Nepal Institute for International Cooperation and Engagement, Nepal Policy Institute, and Nepalese Migrant Unity Network on challenges and opportunity of foreign employment in post-COVID days. To talk on this interesting and important topic, we have a full panel. Before we start, please let me announce a few housekeeping rules. All our speakers are made co-hosts, which means you can mute or unmute yourself whenever you want to speak. Each speaker will have 10 minutes. Please confine to your time limit. I'll ring the bell when it is 9 minutes. Please wind up your remarks within the next 1 minute. You will have enough time to highlight on the remaining aspects during question and answers. All the participants will be in mute mode. They can speak to us, hence they will have to type the questions in chat box or in Facebook comment. Please keep your questions short and direct, as we will give preference to short and sharp questions. Long questions and comments will be in our least priority. This program is being broadcasted live on Facebook and pages of organizers such as Center for Diplomacy and Development, Nepal Institute for International Cooperation, Nepal Policy Institute, and Nepal Migrants Unity Network. So I request all our participants, panelists to share it so that more people can benefit from this discussion. To start the program, may I now invite Mr. Mohan founding president of PDD and former Nepalese ambassador to France to deliver remarks.
Thank you, Pramodji. Namaskar and good afternoon to all audience at home and abroad. On behalf of the Center for Diplomacy and Development, Nepal Institute of International Cooperation and Engagement, Nepal Policy Institute, and Nepalese Migrant Network, I would like to welcome you all at this webinar on the challenges and opportunities of foreign employment in post-COVID days. This is our modest attempt to have an interaction on this important issue. Recognizing the utility of synergy, our four institutions have joined hands to make as an alliance to undertake activities, diplomatic and development issues. This step indeed has strengthened our capacities and broadened our horizons for reaching the audience far and wide. We will definitely endeavor to undertake activities for a portion of works related to diplomacy, development, and international standing issues. We hope to host many more meaningful and important webinars in future to contribute to the society. Today, we had arranged to invite three of our distinguished Nepalese ambassadors to Oman, United Arab Emirates, and Kuwait. However, I feel very regret to say that last night, I got a message that our ambassador to UAE got sick all of a sudden, needing hospitalization for a few days. Hence, we will be missing him at the presentation. And also, Ambassador in Kuwait informed me at the last moment that due to urgent works related to repatriation, we will be missing to speak today. Anyhow, this is our beginning only, and we will bring them back next time. I'm very happy to welcome our ambassador to Oman, Mrs. Sarmila Parajuli Dhakal, who has distinguished herself in the job, and I thank her for taking time from her busy schedule to address this webinar. Similarly, I wish to thank Mr. Richard Howard, Country Director of International Labour Organization, Nepal, Mr. Khagendra Dhakal, Chairperson of Nepal Policy Institute, and Ms. Saru Joshi, well-recognized gender and migrant issues expert. Dear audience, foreign employment and migrant workers are intertwined subjects. We can handle foreign employment at a macro level, whereas migrant workers at micro level. When a migrant worker goes to a foreign country, he or she becomes a part of foreign employment. So it is necessary that we deal both these issues simultaneously. Promotion of safer, unexploited, dignified, and protected migrant worker makes the foreign employment as an attractive opportunity. Like in many of the Colombo process member countries, foreign employment has become a very important issue in our country also. It is one of the main objectives of our economic diplomacy implemented since 1996. Remittances from foreign employment crosses 800 billion rupees a year, and it occupies about 30% contribution in the country's gross domestic product. Nepalese migrant workers are welcomed by employers countries plus Malaysia for the honesty, hard work, and friendly dispositions. Hence, I consider there might be many more good employment opportunities available in future days. This I'm speaking on my own experience. I used to work in our embassy in Abu Dhabi between 2006 and 9, where I have had to deal a lot of problems, a lot of challenges regarding migrant workers and foreign employment. And I have spoken this on the basis of all the feedback I got while working in that country. Despite bright future, we must confess that foreign employment sector is still fraught with myriad problems. There are three types of migrant workers as part of foreign employment: high skill, semi-skilled, and worker class. Especially low-class migrant workers are always vulnerable either in the country of origin or abroad. Their protection and welfare therefore becomes important all the time. Protection gaps and lack of decent work conditions make migrant workers vulnerable to many types of social problems. It is estimated that there are about 1.2 million Nepalese migrant workers in GCC countries alone as part of foreign employment. They are in various employment opportunities from simple worker to semi-skilled masons, electricians, plumbers, scaffolders to high-class bankers, engineers, IT professionals, managers, and even pilots, etc. As foreign employment is one of the priority objectives of our government, it is therefore incumbent on our embassies abroad to support it with available means. Dear audience, let us listen to the presentation to be made by our distinguished ambassador and other panelists today on the subject. All our panelists and research persons have enough experience and knowledge in these subjects. We therefore will get the opportunity to adequately enrich our understanding and knowledge about the challenges and opportunities of foreign employment in the coming days. They will address the issues from different perspectives. Yes, it is true that our entire human community in the world at present are facing a grave challenge from the COVID-19. This disastrous health hazard has infected more than 10 million people and caused death of more than 500,000 people. We still do not know how to control or defeat it in the lack of any specified treatment. Yet we humans are superb and naturally resilient. Suffering we are, even though we cannot forsake the hope to beat this deadly virus in not too distant future. Due to COVID-19 hazard, our migrant workers are also greatly affected in many countries, and few thousands have already returned home, needing reintegration in the employment sectors. Time will heal all these malaise and things will take normal courses again. Let us hope and think positively. Pessimism should take us to further chaos and difficulties. As said, there is no lock made without a key. Every problem, therefore, will have a solution at last. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Sester. It gives me immense pleasure to invite Her Excellency Ambassador Sarmila Parajuli Dhakal, Nepalese Ambassador to Oman, for remarks. Ambassador Dhakal and I studied and we are classmates, so it's like we are meeting after 15 years. It's a great pleasure. Her Excellency Sarmila Parajuli Dhakal joined as Nepalese Ambassador to the Sultanate of Oman in May 2020. She has a substantial experience in institutionalization of business, investment promotion, and entrepreneurship with a sound academic foundation. Prior to her ambassador appointment, she served as Vice President of Nepal Dubai Business Council. She is a PhD candidate from Nepal Sanskrit. Her Excellency Sarmila Parajuli Dhakal was honored Saprabal Jana Seva Shri Medal for Public Service by Right Honorable Mrs. Vidya Devi Bhandari, the President of Nepal in April 2019. Her Excellency, you have around 10 to 12 minutes. The floor is yours. You have to unmute yourself. Please unmute yourself. Please unmute yourself. Please unmute yourself. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Please start.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we can hear you.
Okay, Dr. Pramod, thank you. Here I express again my sincere thanks to Mr. Mohan Krishna Srestha, a former ambassador to France and the founder president of COD, who is the chair of today's webinar, Mr. Janaka Sharma and Dr. Pramod, presented panelists, media persons, ladies and gentlemen. Namaskar to all of you. Pandemic and its effect in foreign employment, which is the main topic of today. With respect to the current situation, I would like to highlight a few situations which we are going through at the moment. We can observe that the numbers of migrant workers are shrinking, especially within GCC. Less job opportunities are available here, also especially in the service sector. Even we can analyze that after the resuming some business sector, still the less job opportunities are there. Unemployment rates are increasing every day. So labor receiving countries encouraging more citizen-oriented policies. When we talk about Oman, here also the Oman is promoting encouraging more citizen-oriented policies such as Omanization in Oman. Cut down in the number of employees by most of the private sectors. Development projects have been reduced. We can analyze this. And slowed down, except some of the priority projects of the government of the Sultanate of Oman. Also, most of the situation, we have a similar situation in the GCC. Let me talk on the post-pandemic predictions, because at the moment what we can do is a prediction only. So according to the World Trade Organization's recent press release, world trade is expecting to fall by between 13% and 32% in the 2020, as the COVID-19 pandemic disrupts the normal economic activity and life. So around the world, it further says 2021 and the trade is expected, but depends on the duration of the outbreak. We don't know how long it will remain with us, and the effectiveness of the policy response. So the one thing that becomes increasingly obvious in the Gulf is the desperate need for the sustainable economic diversification. All of the GCC states have embarked upon the vision development programs. Likewise, in Oman also, we have Vision 2040. However, these programs rely on the revenue from the energy exports to build their post-energy sectors. And lower oil prices in recent years strengthen those efforts. We can see that how things is developing in GCC countries, especially in the MENA region. The current shock of the global energy markets, with the prices down since the start of the year, makes it especially difficult to manage. But again, a massive diversification of the resources. I mean, the available resources. What are available with, especially in Oman. For example, mines, minerals, which Oman has started to plan strategically, will be beneficial to bounce back the economy. Here I want to emphasize on how resilient Oman is to deal with the situation. That is very important to analyze. Oman have been playing a role of a mediator to maintain the peace and stability in the region. So this is a very positive, I mean, we can say the positive sign to bounce back. When we bounce back, how the country will, I mean, the peace and security, how it will help to promote the country's interest. So this what Oman is doing since decades. That will help Oman to collaborate in the trade and the business network among the nations. Strategic locations, which is very important, with the newly developed port of Dhakal. The port of Dhakal is developing and is going to be logistic, business, and development hub. Strait of Hormuz, we can talk about another strategic location about the Oman, why the Oman is important in, especially in the world economy. Strait of Hormuz It's a strait between the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman. It provides the only sea passage from the Persian Gulf to the open ocean. It's one of the world's most strategically important point. Almost 25% of the total global oil consumption, which we are consuming these days, all the time, passes through the Strait of Hormuz. So Oman has a potential to overcome, but what I can see with these locations and this potentiality, I can feel that the Oman has a potential to overcome any possible financial utilizing available resources and strategies to deal with any upcoming crisis. During COVID-19, government of Oman through central bank injected almost $20 billion to support commercial sectors, which is really appreciable, and we can feel the market is reviving back slowly. There is, they are feeling the comfort actually. The policy of Oman government to protect its commercial sector by sharing some of the burden, like considering renewable fees, time, and the project completion time, revising trade policies, providing the clear guidelines regarding to handling of the human resources management, especially in the dealing with expats. So, which is really, praiseworthy. So, at the moment, what I can see here, I would like to highlight on what initiatives the Embassy of Nepal, Muscat, is taking in Oman during the COVID-19. So I must share with you what we are doing at the moment. We create awareness among the Nepali living in Oman as per the instructions on the health and safety measures that we receive and which we are receiving every day, and we are transmitting those messages of the governments of Nepal as well as the government of Oman. We are transmitting the messages. How this is our first responsibility to transmit the messages, and we do coordinate with the companies, sponsors, employers, and with the government of Oman with regards to welfare, protection, and safety of the Nepali contractual workers. That's what we are doing since the COVID started. And we reach out to provide relief of food materials to the victims and the sufferers. Those are with the visas stranded due to the closure of the workplace, and provide them required support, assistance. We are doing that. Food and essential goods, including the sanitizer shop, the food packages, even some of them. We have provided the shelters also, but not to all. We facilitate to those are in need to visit healthcare providers. Sometimes they call us and they say how I can visit the hospitals, how I can go and do my testing. So we guide them how to test for the COVID. If they have a suspicion, we also guide them for that. So we coordinate with the hospitals. We test COVID-19 in case of the necessity. We provide psychological care, which is the very important part at the moment while our people are suffering outside the country. So psychological care is very important for those who are in isolation also, especially in the quarantine, for being reported with the COVID-19 positive. They are sick, they are not happy, and then they are sad in a room. So we need to talk to them frequently. Also, we are connected with them to get frequent updates. How's their health conditions, how they are feeling. So we have established embassies volunteers group. This is very, I'm very happy to share with you, including Nepali diaspora, members of the Nepali Social Club, NRNA, social Nepali organizations, to reach out, maximum Nepali living in the Sultanate, as Oman covers the area of 309,500 kilometers square. We heartily appreciate our volunteers and the individuals for their willingness to cooperate with the embassy team in this time of difficulties. As per the directions received from the government of Nepal to organize a repatriate flight from Oman, we chartered 2 flights as per the criterion given to the embassies in regards to the repatriations flights. We were able to send back 313 Nepali last month. To continue our efforts, we are facilitating PCR test even today. So our people are coordinating at the moment. Everybody's working from office, working from everywhere to coordinate them for the PCR test. to guide them, to help them, to prepare for the third flight that will depart on the 10th of July. Completing all the formalities from the related authorities of the host country and home country Nepal. We have a lot of formalities, even the repatriation process. It has the many steps to complete. Through the different individuals, we receive information that help us to map, to trash the infectious Nepali. It is our responsibility, our duty to know how many people, how many Nepalis are positive and how they are feeling. These are our and unofficially we have to get receive that. So we are receiving that. We update the information to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Nepal, every day, particularly health updates on the policies related to the foreign workers, status of the laborers, the COVID-19 affected data. I would like to inform you all, also today, the latest data of the Oman till July 3rd, yesterday, 43,929 are the total cases, including foreigners. And the recoveries are 26,169. Cumulative total deaths are 193. Let me take time to talk on way forward. From the current scenario of ongoing repatriations, it can be estimated that significant numbers of Nepalese will return Nepal after losing their jobs. That is what we can feel in the destination countries. Even though new normals have been developed, it is obvious. That the many small business and the service sectors will not resume 100%, at least until this year. That is we can see that. So in case of Oman, we expect around 1,500 Nepali will lose jobs in total. Among them, around 20% are those whose contract period is over as per regular terms. In total, government of Oman has cut down its fiscal budget by 10%, which ultimately affects the employment to some extent. So besides this, we have to wait for the time to see how the situation unfolds, giving priority to national capacity development and also employment generations within the country. Nepal, until such environment is created, it is very essential for us to manage and secure. We have to manage and secure the foreign employment. I think this is the main initiatives which today in this webinar. For this, following measures are advisory for the missions abroad and the government of Nepal. What we can do as in the mission at the embassies, we can develop the mobile app. We can have a mobile app as well as we have tested the mobile app that is available in Android and will be available in the iOS as well. So we can develop an app and we can reintegrating the workforce. We can do the reintegration of the workforce in the labor market as per the available opportunities in the labor receiving countries. This initiation we can do. In the context of Nepal, I really want to elaborate a bit about in the context of Nepal as well, because we are linked to create a central data center and collect as per the skill professions of returnees through the social media, mobile app to match the skill, which is very important. So we must, the government must start collecting the data and the robust initiative to replace the foreigner workforce with Nepali job seekers. This is the concept that most of the countries at the moment focusing on. I already explained about this, how Oman is doing. So we can name it as a Nepalization. So we have a lot of foreign workers in the country from the neighboring country. So we can do the Nepalization, giving opportunity to our own people. Increasing competency of human resources to be able to compete in the job market, adopting newly developed IT-friendly trainings, which is the need of today's world and for today's economy. promoting startup business within Nepal, strengthen bilateral talks with the labor destination countries to observe access manpower and prevent further deterioration of labor market. Promote joint investment to support our industrial agriculture sector. We also can do this. Also, we can the management of the returnees in agriculture sector. Everybody's, now talking about giving space in the agriculture sector, but we have to modernize it. So I think the youth will like it. So especially with the modern agricultural system, by ensuring availability of the needed materials, such as short-term and the long-term trainings, which is very, very important, and the quality seeds, irrigation systems, and the fertilizers. This should be available for the, to focus on the agricultural-based economy. So that we have to promote IT and digital knowledge-based platforms, training programs, especially in the food supply business, as it is unstoppable. We can see it is unstoppable. Our groceries were open before pandemic, and then during pandemic also. So this is everything. With us here, so we can feel how our focus should be. So here, the technical and the expert has to come together, to unite together, to give a new shape and new idea, new place for our people. Once again, I really thank you, Mr. Mohan Krishna Srestha, and I thank Mr. Pramod and all the panelists, and thank you everybody for inviting me today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Her Excellency. The next speaker for today is Dr. Richard Howard. Dr. Richard Howard is Country Director of the International Labour Organization, Nepal. He has 20 years of management and research experience of working in the private sector and non-government organizations, including the ILO, in Asia and the Pacific region. His expertise includes gender equality and non-discrimination, migration, indigenous people, sexual and reproductive health, and HIV and AIDS. Howard working in the ILO as senior regional specialist on HIV and decent work for marginalized group in Hong Kong, Thailand. Chief Technical Advisor, Private Sector Partnership on Health for Internal Migrants in Beijing, China. FHI 360 as Asia Regional Program Manager, Private Sector Partnership for Health in Jakarta, Indonesia. And Castle Asia as Director of Research, Industry Analysis and Market Strategy in Jakarta, Indonesia. He's a Fulbright scholar. He worked in Indonesia with research focusing on gender, ethnicity, and national identity. An American citizen, Howard holds a doctorate of philosophy in anthropology from the University of Illinois and Bachelor of Arts degree from University of South Carolina. Dr. Richard, the floor is yours.
Hi, good afternoon. It's nice to be here. A pleasure to be here with my colleagues, other colleagues from the ILO today. So I'd just like to run over some key points about the migrant situation from the labor market perspective, and then look at some of the options that can be carried out here in Nepal to help absorb migrant workers, but also thinking what those opportunities are in the future to build back better, as we say, in terms of migration governance and how we can improve and really learn from this crisis that we faced. So I'd like to talk a little bit about the labor market and the situation with returning migrants in Nepal as a start. And as many of you know, the labor market overall before the COVID crisis the size was about 8 million people, 7.9 million people. And prior to COVID, you had about 500,000 entrants into the labor market every year. And as you know, many of those people could not be absorbed into the labor market. And in 2018, we had about 1 million people who were unemployed. Also, if you look at the quality of jobs in Nepal prior to COVID, about 85% of workers were in the informal jobs. So they lacked adequate social protection, wage protection, safety and health, and all of these challenges that workers face in Nepal. And we know that tourism was a growing segment before COVID, but still really only employed 8% of the total workforce. And another characteristic of the labor market here in Nepal is that the huge gender gap in terms of accessing opportunities, equal treatment and equal pay for this work of the same nature. So these were big challenges for women in the labor market. And then, not surprising, given those factors, that large numbers of people have migrated. Documented workers that we know of that are registered, 2.8 million working abroad. And the largest countries receiving migrants are Malaysia, followed by Qatar. So then came COVID. And what do we see in Nepal? About 4.44 million jobs have been impacted in several key economic sectors. So the hardest hit sector in Nepal has been the wholesale and retail trade, followed by manufacturing, construction, and transport and storage. Another sector, hotel, restaurant, and tourism, has also been impacted significantly. Young people are a big proportion of those that have been extremely affected. So 1 in 5 people who've either lost their jobs or had reduced working hours are young people. So young people are a big group. So overall, you see about nearly 4.5 million people impacted by this crisis, with either unemployment or reduced working times and reduced wages. So what do we see in terms of the migration? The numbers range considerably in terms of how many people are expected to return. So NPC, the National Planning Commission, will release a study in a couple of weeks to look at the numbers from various angles and propose different strategies for reintegration. Now that's still in the works, but we should have that in a couple of weeks. So what we know now, and the numbers vary considerably, about 500,000 people have already returned from India. The bulk of those are seasonal workers, and about 500,000 may return from Malaysia and the Gulf. So if we look at the data from NAFIA, for example, the Association of Recruitment Agencies, Malaysia may have as many as 150,000 people returning, followed by Qatar, 85,000, UAE estimated at 120,000, Saudi, 76,000, Kuwait, 80,000, and Bahrain, the number is less, as we heard from the ambassador. So large numbers returning. So that will be a big challenge in terms of the employment side, because we already had a very challenged labor market going into this crisis. Now, I think the response for migrant workers should be carried out along 3 phases. And the first phase really is to address the needs of migrant workers in the destination countries. And we have, for several years with the Swiss, been encouraging MOFA to work with us in partnership to strengthen the capacity of missions along the lines of work that's approaches that are carried out by the Philippines through their missions using an all-of-embassy approach. And we do have resources to support those missions. And unfortunately, we're very early days in that response, but we have done an assessment of capacity needs in several missions just prior to COVID. So in the future, we'll be working all out with MOFA to support those missions to strengthen the services that they provide in collaboration with a range of partners, including NGOs in those receiving countries, even unions, trade unions in some of those countries. But what we see now in the missions is there's an urgent need to strengthen the human resources that are available to support migrant workers and extending the mission reach to where concentration of Nepali workers is higher, and managing special support, short-term support for women and other vulnerable workers in those destination countries, linking those workers to legal, paralegal assistance to handle complaints towards employers, cases of irregular status of workers, and other financial settlements. Collaboration with countries of destination to ensure secure, systematic, and well-planned return of migrant workers. And we've heard a lot of anecdotal evidence of migrant workers who return from certain destination countries where they've really encountered a lot of complexity in their efforts to get home, and sometimes clear and outright exploitation by those who were set up or in a position to provide support, but actually made their returns home more difficult. So a lot of lessons learned on how we can support migrant workers in those destination countries. Now, of course, as mentioned by the ambassador, registering, and when migrants return, there is a huge opportunity in these holding centers and other centers to understand the migrant needs and channel them towards various services that are available for them. So we've seen, for example, a number of women's organizations working in these holding centers to support women with psychosocial counseling and also linking them to shelters in Kathmandu. Many of the women that are returning, for example, from Kuwait, do not really want to return back to their home locations because of various discriminatory factors and other challenges they face as women in their home countries, and the stigma they face both as potential COVID carriers, but also as women who have migrated. So really a lot of special needs about women and how we help them to return or reintegrate safely. And another factor, of course, is what are the opportunities with these returning migrants? How can we track and analyze their skill sets and the potential they have to enhance economic growth at municipal levels when they do go home? So initial data collection would be advisable with these holding centers and really start to track and analyze the skill sets of migrant workers and how they link to the skills qualification frameworks within the country, and then how we can help to design employment programs at local levels to absorb them. So then the big challenge is what do we do when migrant workers get back to their municipalities? And there we see a number of government measures in place on paper to support migrants and others who have been impacted by losing their jobs. And the prime program there, of course, is the Prime Minister's Employment Program, which is linked to employment service centers, which should be established in 753 municipalities. Now, those are very early days, and the capacity of those centers is very, very minimal. But there is an opportunity to quickly strengthen those services in these employment service centers to, again, track the skill sets, understand where these migrants can contribute at municipal level, and to link those migrants to a range of programs, including skills programs, the Prime Minister's employment programs, other kind of temporary employment programs such as infrastructure works programs, but also the agricultural initiatives, as well as any other kind of entrepreneurship opportunities for those migrants that may want to go the entrepreneurship route. So what we need really to do is work with municipalities to develop sort of a menu of options to assist migrants when they come back, and make sure that we channel migrants to different options that make sense within their particular situation and skill sets, as well as their social cultural realities, particularly the gender dimensions here. So a big challenge is on these three phases: what we do in destination countries, how we receive them when they return to Kathmandu, mostly through the airport for those from GCC and Malaysia, but most importantly, I would argue, is how we can support municipalities and high migrant sending locations to develop a really comprehensive response on employment to support the. We do have a lot of growth. So those are three areas of future work. But of course, then we get to those, what are those long-term challenges? And here I look forward to learning from other participants. I mean, clearly we know that we can see a lot of weaknesses in our overall response within our own work at the ILO, how we could have done better prior to this crisis to really avoid some of the problems we face now. And so if we identify those weaknesses, then we can focus on those as we build back better as we come out of this crisis. And so we see overall really the biggest challenge for all workers, including migrant workers, is the lack of social protection. So we know for example, there is minimal level of social protection available for migrants when they're overseas, also when they return. The Foreign Employment Welfare Fund is one of those. But of course, that doesn't cover many of the undocumented workers who are the most vulnerable. So it's time really, as we build a social security system in the country, that we think of different kinds of programs to put in place for migrant workers so that they are covered both when they are overseas, but also when they return. And really social protection, I believe, is the biggest lesson learned of a key gap that we haven't delivered on so far, and that COVID-19 shows that we really, really need to develop those systems quickly. And then we can also look at these bilateral agreements in place. The government's developed several exemplary bilateral agreements in the past couple of years. Now the challenge really is how we can implement these well. and thoroughly, and even bring in other elements that are missing in those agreements through amendments. But again, it's all about implementation on those agreements. So lots of opportunities and challenges as we go forward. And I really look forward to learning from other participants on how they advise ILO, how we can better support the governments and the workers, and the migrant workers, as we move forward and come out of this crisis to build a better future for all workers, particularly migrant workers. So thank you very much, and back to you.
Thank you, Dr. Howard. The next speaker is Khagendra Dhakal. He is the chairperson of Nepal Policy Institute. Mr. Dhakal is an educationist and has been in higher education for the last 13 years. Currently, he's working as a lecturer at King Mongkut University of Technology, North Bangkok. He served as Assistant Dean of International Affairs at the same university. Dhakal holds an MA from Avondale University College, Australia, and PGC in Applied Linguistics from the University of Oregon. His interests include applied linguistics, policy analysis, education innovation, and soft skills. He was awarded the E-Teacher Professional Development Award by the United States Department of State and the Best Reviewer Award by the International Higher Education Teaching and Learning Association, New York. He was the president of Non-Resident Nepali Association, Thailand, for 2 years. Mr. Dhakal, please proceed with your remarks. You may take 12 to 15 minutes as two of our speakers could not join us.
Thank you, Dr. Pramod. And I would like to thank Ambassador Shrestha for coordinating with these 4 organizations and inviting me to be one of the panelists. And it was my pleasure to join these panelists, well known in the field and leading different organizations. And respected audience from different parts of the world. Actually, I myself, being one of the foreign employee from Nepal, I think it makes some sense that I'm sharing the feelings of these migrant employees somehow. And today, I would like to bring a few insights from one of the studies Nepal Policy Institute has been conducting. Actually, we are at the final stage, and we have the data at hand, and then we scratching the descriptive data so that we have something to share today. However, we will be able to share our rapid assessment on migrant workers that we are looking into Gulf country, Malaysia, and India, 8 major destinations that we trying to understand situation and trying to hear their real voices. Starting, just to start, actually, this, just like Dr. Howard said, the impact of COVID pandemic is unprecedented and with the devastating impacts on employment. I totally agree with other panelists on this, but when I look at this, well, there is a huge impact, but I don't see foreign laborers are the problem, but they could be part of the solution to this existing health and economic emergencies that we're facing. Actually, this crisis is an opportunity for us to go back and see what were not normal before COVID pandemic. So I think we have seen very clearly what were not normal, especially in the field of foreign employment and migration, labor migration. Like earlier speaker said, rising inequalities, systemic gender discrimination, lack of opportunities for young people, stagnant ways, and they were not normal even before COVID. So I agree with Dr. Howard that we should look for better future. We should build better future than going back to the normal. And To connect to what I said about the rapid assessment, we have almost concluded. Let me briefly share to you a few points that we have scratched from the data. We looked at the like 8 major destinations, and then 600 plus of informants, migrant workers we approached, and we had a group discussion. We had some secondary data also to analyze. And what we found is these migrant workers have no idea about what programs Nepal has prepared for them. So the most important thing to note is our missions, other stakeholders, maybe they should aware these already returned or on the way to return migrant workers about what are the programs designed for them. And another finding was their legal status, the range from termination from the job, from illegal to undocumented, and everything in between. Should there are different status they're holding at the moment. And similarly, many migrants workers are rethinking about their return itself now. They have changed their mind, unlike at the beginning of the pandemic, because they're looking at the situation in Nepal, and maybe they are seeing more threats also. So they are rethinking about they really want to return. So similarly, there is a loss of remittance, is obvious, and inability to sending their children to school, and then going back to their ancestral homes and the farm, they are worried about. Similarly, the involvement of local government in the reintegration needs to be more focused. I think the knowledge that is at the local level should be utilized to design reintegration successful. Another point that we're trying to make from the data is we need to create national and the local level database from these returnees so that we can match the skills and experience with job opportunities that will emerge. So this is one of the urgent thing to start with. And another finding was most of these migrant workers already returned or they are planning to return. They are interested about self-employment. That's the number is really high, but 80% of them have no idea about the program, the loan, or financial assistance, and they have the major constraint. They have pointed to financial constraint. So this is one of the major challenges they have noted. Similarly, the women migrant worker have to be dealt in depth, and they're most likely to be undocumented, many of them. And another suggestion that our study is making is dignity of the return of the migrant is very, very important. In few days, we'll share the whole report. So I think this is what I want to share at the moment, and I would like to touch on other few things. These are, this is the current status of the migrant workers. And let me share some of my thoughts on the factors that causing or driving foreign employment in case of Nepal, and what would be the future perspective or future prospect for the foreign employment in Nepal. So like everywhere, the employment opportunities and social political uncertainties and insecurity are the most common reason for large out migration in case of Nepal. And future employment, I tend to look into the earthquake situation, and they many people went to foreign employment after earthquake because there was no other way to finance their daily life, to take care of their families, sending their children to school. So even those people who didn't plan to go for foreign employment, they had to make those decisions all of a sudden. So I tend to think that this situation might reoccur after COVID also, when the government will allow again the migrant workers for foreign destinations. And this is so the future of employment will be there. If no matter what situation, the migration, the cycle will go on. Well, the number will be affected, and the nature of a job might be affected in destination countries. However, the cycle will go on. And if there is a future still for unemployment, definitely it's one of the factor of globalization, so it will be on. But what challenges and opportunities there will be, actually looking into Nepal's case, I like to point a few things. The first one is the demographic window of opportunity that Nepal has. We have Nepal is a country of youth, and there are like 41% population is between 16 to 40 age group, and that's really something that we can capitalize. And also the working age group, there's more than 63% population is there. So running some skill programs, skilling, reskilling, upskilling will we can change the challenges to opportunities for internal employment or international employment. And the interesting thing is, before COVID, there was only 1% of youth who went abroad for work were skilled. It's really sad news. And there were like 24% youths were semi-skilled, and 75% were unskilled. So I think this is where multilateral agencies, Nepal government, other stakeholders need to chip in and work on devising the solution, whatever it could be. However, there are a few thoughts that I could share in this forum today. And like the demographic dividend, we are actually shrinking soon. In another 8 years, we will enter to aging society. So we have roughly 8 years, and this period of time, Nepal has to work hard, and any agency that's supporting Nepal, they really have to make use of this in this period of time. And when talking about the skill enhancement programs, I always, by being an educationist, I always promote even for SDG 4 in Nepal. TVET is one of the key, and then this technical and vocational, the skill programs are very, very important. But these programs are disconnected from what beneficiary really want. Sometimes we are designing these kind of programs without even asking the beneficiary what youth really want, what these migrant workers who return already, what they really want. This is a major issue. That's why we did that study that I mentioned to you a while ago. And for that one, every municipality, the government is trying to set up one technical and vocational college. I think we have to make use of them. And these, beside the technical skills, I think I suggest some kind of digital literacy and foreign language knowledge and intercultural competencies would be something important for the future employment, no matter which destination we will opt for, the migrant workers will opt for. And another aspect is we have to give importance to social remittances. social remittances, I'm referring to the skills, the ideas, and the network and the identity these migrant workers bring back to the country, the returnees bring back to Nepal. These could be an asset, and sometimes they could be something that we don't really appreciate as well, but we need to take account of what skills, what ideas, what identity they have come back with, and we should utilize them in our reintegration programs. That will make our program effective. For example, look at China, Vietnam, Philippines, South Korea, Pakistan, and India. These high skilled workers not only sending money, but a lot of technology skills and innovative ideas bringing back to their countries, show something to learn from them. And another thing is, well, there is a problem. The pandemic is there. That's a reality. We don't know. We are all just predicting and then just making prediction based on the current data. However, reversing migration is happening already. So we can even take this as an opportunity for Nepal, that we can do some kind of reintegration program like enterprise development intervention and the loan facility in partnership with banks to support enterprise development among the returnees and their family is something that is workable. And for example, I just read one news a few days ago that the Contractor Association chair or someone was telling that before COVID, there were 1.5 million workers involved in construction sector, and then 500,000 were Indian nationals. Well, the COVID had changed. People might, Indian people, these workers may go back, or government may change the policy. Or see, even there are like the local and the domestic workforce, we are lacking people there. That means there needs to be a culture of respect to any kind of work. I think the narrative about the lower and a higher job, this kind of thing, should be something something to be changed, and we should work on that. Like people go abroad and then they're ready to do anything, but when they come back to Nepal and they still need to have that kind of mindset, maybe that's one of the social remittances that we can utilize, their openness, and we can utilize, and our planning has to address that component too. And look, going to the same opportunity thing, I would look at from economic perspective and say that the huge remittance in Nepal, they contributed 1/3 of our GDP. That's the reality. And if we skill them, if we ran those skill programs, maybe in the future with a small number of migrant workers going abroad, can multiply the remittance. So skill is something core of this future employment planning and designing. And but one thing that I would like to add when I talk about this economic contribution in Nepal, there are some media report that like 70,000 plus people are going abroad for international higher education, and roughly 4 billion Nepalese rupees is outflowing annually, and this doesn't look really for migration, but there are many educationists and then researchers tend to agree that one of the major reasons these people going for abroad education is to earn some money, to find ways to short or long-term employment. So something that we haven't looked into, I think it's the time that we have to discuss about this phenomenon as well. And another thing is, in Nepal, there are like the total, 50% of the population are not in education, employment, or training. This is something, a danger, because this disengage people, and now the pandemic impact, more people will be unemployed, especially from the informal sector, and many migrant workers are returning. So if there is this huge number of unengaged youth, that might create some kind of social and political instability, and we should really think about it in our plan and address urgently. And another thing that I would like to suggest is, even though this is we are in the middle of the crisis, we should not stop looking for the opportunity for even attracting foreign direct investment. Like for that, maybe maybe we can have some kind of COVID special incentives to investors. And I just give you one example that I was presenting in another session the other day. In Indonesia, a company in Indonesia manages 60,000 hectares of forest land and sells timber and rubber products in the global market. And they actually have 10,000 direct employments and many more in a value chain. So this kind of thing we should think through, I think, during the crisis as well. And also to engage our youth in a production, in a producting sector, I would like to propose one rural municipality, one product framework, so that our effort will spread all over the country, and that will help every local level to find one product that they could really identify and produce, and then they can engage the local youth, and the government has to support them with the technical know-how and then a grassroots level, like maybe some enterprising model, maybe a business counselor at a municipality level they can place in. So that could be a solution. And I mean, before, while I'm finishing my presentation, I would say the long-term employment, the long-term solution for the foreign employment, whether it is internal or international, we have to invest urgently in our children who are regular students now. They are the one who will define the future of Nepal, and then they will contribute to Nepal, either local or international employment. And my last point today would be the National Youth Policy of 2010 has to be amended, and then we have to amend looking into this current crisis, and also that should be consistent and integrated with the national education policy, foreign employment policies, and these challenges should be translated to opportunities in integrative manner. And I think I will leave with this. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Dhakal. The next speaker is Mrs. Saru Joshi Shrestha. Saru Joshi Shrestha holds Masters in Political Science from Tribhuvan University and Masters in Women and Development from Institute of Social Science in The Hague. She is a working member in various programs, including the Task Force for Reform on Foreign Labor Migration, Ministry of Labor, Employment and Social Security. Ms. Shrestha is the recipient of International Fund Prize for Pioneering Development Project 2003 for leading the program Asia Pacific and Arab State Regional Program and Empowerment of Women Migration Workers in Nepal, including Jordan and Indonesia. She served in the Social Welfare Council for many years and also led several UN programs on women empowerment. She has published more than 50 articles in various newspaper journals and magazines, including the role of NRNA and Remittance. She is also currently an executive board member of Nepal Policy Institute, which is the global diaspora think tank and knowledge platform. Ma'am, the floor is yours. You may take 12 to 15 minutes.
Thank you all four organizers for having me here. This is an important discussion going on, and I may bring the civil society perspective. I was with the government for 12 years and almost 20 years with the UN system, and now I have joined the civil society group and advocating on women migrant workers issue as well. And I very much agree with what Richard had said earlier, and also the Khagendra's some data, because I was also part of that study. But I will try to bring other few issues which are not yet brought into the discussion, mostly the gender issues. And though Richard had tried to bring that gender issues on board, but in most of the discourse dialogue, women migrant workers or the gender issues never comes in the center stage, whereas they are the one who are most vulnerable. As government of Nepal has identified 17 categories of people who should be repatriated, who should be brought back to the country. Among them, migrant worker is one of them. But within the migrant worker, there are several categories. Undocumented worker, workers working in India who were always neglected, domestic worker who are forced to work invisibly through the government because of the government decision. And there are other undocumented worker, the workers working in Hong Kong with the Hong Kong government's restrictive policy, and there are several other countries like Afghanistan, Iraq. So there are so many other countries, and countries' situation is different. So while discussing migrant workers issue, one approach, one umbrella policy may not be applicable for all. So we have to really take into this account. Again, bringing back the women migrant workers issue, since 1989, there was restriction to women to work in Gulf countries. And then after that, with the age ban, with the, category ban, domestic worker, it's still going on. It's more than 2 decades. It's been 21 years that with the change of political system, with the change in different scenario, but the protectionist approach to see women migrant worker as a vulnerable category is still going on. So that's a very sad part. And now when there are issues of rescue, repatriation, reaching towards to those women migrant workers is still an issue. So there are some efforts, like Kuwait government has taken some step to give amnesty and send them workers back. But this is not the case of other countries as well. And there are other migrant workers, like in daily basis, like around 1,500 workers contract is being expired. So the cumulative numbers of a regular worker is also big and high. So these are some issues. And then I would also want to share some psychological aspect of migrant worker, the fear aspect. Fear of working in the same, working condition where they are fearful of being infected, fear to stay in the camp or the deportation center where there are, mixed of affected or infected migrant workers. So that fear is there. Fear of being returned, how people will react on them, because there are media reporting that people at the villages, treated them as someone who brings corona to the community. So that psychology is there. The fear of paying back loan, the fear of being, treated at household who came, empty pocket, or the fear of being returned back, being pregnant, fear of being, coming back with a mental, some problem. So many kind of fear is going on. So what I'm trying to say is that the situation of migrant work is really stressful. So we need a different approach to this them. Like 56% households were receiving remittance, and there are projections that the remittance will go 30 to 40% down this year in 2020. So that fear is there. And then IIDS study, a rapid assessment, reveals that already 1,100 people have lost their job. 28% men and 41% women have already lost their job, meaning that already our internal job market is shrinking. The truth, and I would also want to share 2011 census data, which says that besides the agriculture and service sector, other economic sector for women is shrinking. Maybe because that our cities are not, gender responsive. There are fear, there are violence issues, there are rape issues. So women are afraid to stay alone and work. What I'm trying to say is that already job market is shrinking, and if the migrant workers come back, they have to internally, compete with the these people as well. So that kind of uncertainty, that kind of, how to pay back loan, how to pay back the rent, how to pay back, to pay children's education. So those are real fear factors that are going on migrant workers issues. And that has come in the study that Khagendra ji was referring. And there are some, embassies as well, like Ambassador of Oman said that they are trying their level best, and we are happy to know that. But there are other embassies as well which embassies are saying that men are paying $450 for the ticket, but many women are not able to pay back the fee of ticket. So that in that situation, how that women can access this rescue and other repatriation is also an issue. I'm sorry to say that the repatriation plan is yet not there. The government, the ad hoc initiative is going on, and we have to be very honest to say that, to flag that, to make our strong repatriation plan as well. Okay. And then there are recent Supreme Court's verdict saying that the government has to prepare directives to bring their workers back, and it's their rights too. And now directives is being developed, and which is in front of cabinet. But there are only, we have heard there are two provisions. One is that those workers who have gone through the, taking labor permit, they can be rescued. But for those who, undocumented migrant workers, basically mainly women, for them, the government has to look for another resources. It has, 3 months has already passed away, gone. How they will arrange another resources? That is $1 million question. And those migrant workers who have sent remittance to this country, they have strengthened household economy, they have strengthened national economy. They are the one who really rescued during the conflict situation, and they are the one who do not have a voting right to really make the political party win or fall. And these undocumented migrant workers are not in the center stage of priority, and that is something, a matter of concern for all of us. And it's just not that migrant to send the migrant worker a buying ticket. How they will be treated into the quarantine, how they will be treated while sending them to the provinces, how the migrant worker, returning migrant worker, some returning migrant worker treated in separate women's quarantine. For those returning from the India, they are they were kept in the mixed quarantine where men and women were in the same quarantine. There were cases of harassment, there were cases of rape. Some migrant workers did not get even simple hospital services. So those are some areas of concerns, and we don't know that this will not continue. So because at this point of time, we really do not see a priority to repatriate, to make a comprehensive plan. So that is something really lacking. And I really thank media. Instead of government, media are the institution who are really providing these informations. How the embassies are treated, migrants are treated in the embassies, how migrants are treated in the quarantine center, how migrants are treated in the holding center, on the way. Those are the information given by the media. That's why a good advocacy is also going on. So these are some areas of concern, and the dignity of worker is not yet there. How they are treated in several sectors is something that we have to improve. But having said that, there are opportunities too. The principle is that Constitution, Foreign Employment Act, and Supreme Court's verdict says that all workers have right to return back in the time of pandemic or the crisis or the disasters. So those are the principle that country has to follow. So that is something that I see as an opportunity. And the directives of government of Nepal, which is in the now cabinet, but still it is not inclusive for the undocumented worker. How will they manage resources is still an issue. And then the study Khagendra was referring, NPI, Nepal Policy Institute was referring that I was really happy to see that though it is still in the preliminary phase, 80% of migrant workers are motivated to come back. And when we were saying that our villages are dying cities, there are, tala chabi lock in all, households. In such scenario, if the workers, if our youth are willing to come back home, I think we have to see this as an opportunity. Another is that the budget. The recent budget also addresses that the Prime Minister Employment Fund, Prime Minister Agriculture Program, and there are other some 200,000 job will be created. So those of the program can be linked for the returning migrant workers. So I see that is an opportunity. And thus all municipalities, they are working on developing their budget and plan. So if those budget and plan are COVID-19 sensitive or the migrant workers responsive, there can be an opportunity to create a space for them. But having said that, just giving a training will not work, because those disconnected training, just training without any loan, without any mentorship, without any further enterprise development guidance or linking it with the market. If we do not do that, then the training will be, is a usual thing. I have heard one woman, got training 122 times, but still she is not an entrepreneur. So what kind of training we are giving? This is high time that we have to look back, that is our training were comprehensive or not. And there are issues of care deficit. The children of migrant workers are not getting, the care, love, and that there are elderly people who are also neglected in the rural areas. If the migrant workers comes back and they get space to really work here, the issue of care deficit can also be addressed. There are issues of labor deficit as well. The Indian migrant worker comes like barber, there are the plumbing, there are other technical categories where other countries' laborers are coming. Maybe those places, those spaces can also be occupied by our migrant worker. So I see opportunity as well. But how do we say it? Will not get remittance, or we see it as that we are the youth are coming back. How do we see it is something that we need to discuss. And what next? I see that now the mandate of engaging returning migrant worker goes with the municipalities. They have to collect data, they have to create job, and they have mandate to do a socio-economic reintegration program. However, the foreign labor migration is largely a centralized issue. And now we have a local government, but we have not yet transferred knowledge, skill. The hand-holdingness of the federal government is not yet there. I'm sorry to say that the federal government has not yet empowered the local government, and that is some area that I see that we can work on. And another opportunity is that I was also engaged in one of the reintegration program of UN Women, which was making remittance work with women. Those women migrant worker or the returning migrant worker, as Khagendra says, they come with a social remittance, exposure, time management, networking, some skill, and some decision-making capacity. If those social remittance are captured for the benefit of the household and the community and the municipality, I see there is an opportunity. And the migrant workers, this should be welcomed. I hardly see welcome messages. Sunilji, I saw Sunil Nepani here, and I saw a video of this for this, that how do we welcome, how do we treat our migrant worker, it's all their right to return back. So those kind of positive messages from the government, from the municipality is really required. And at the end, I would also want to say that UN system is developing their socio-economic framework to respond COVID-19 for 12 to 18 years. If we, do some pilot program to really to support the municipalities, mayor, upa-mayor, and some of the employment related work, I think they will be empowered, and because they are willing to do. to adjust with the migrant worker to create space, but they don't know how to do that. So now how to connect the embassy's work, the federal government's work, with the local government work, is how to create a bridge is something that socio-economic framework can address. There are so many other issues. Maybe we will get some time to respond afterward. But what I'm saying is that reverse migration can be an opportunity for Nepal. Let's not only think that it will be a burden. There will be violence, there will be crime, there will be suicide. Those are there. But reverse migration, if we adopt a whole of country approach, whole of society approach, then this can be an opportunity as well. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Ladies and gentlemen, all our panelists have made the initial remarks. Now we'll open the floor for questions. We request all our participants to drop their questions in the chat box. We have received few questions, so I'll directly move to the question. The first question is for Richard. There's a question which says that I am a social worker currently residing in Malaysia. It has been overwhelming experience to help rescue extended migrants here in Malaysia. How would you like to suggest us on how can we prepare them? If there is any specific guidelines to assist them. I work with well-organized network here in Malaysia. That is first for Richard. The second question is for the ambassador. While talking gloomy global scenario due to corona pandemic, Nepal, whose economy heavily rely on tourism and remittance, and these sources will shrink by 14% to 35% less after the COVID-19, leading to mass unemployment due to international recession. Tens of thousands Nepalese migrants have been laid off and may force many to return home. As Nepalese ambassador to oil-rich Gulf countries and Malaysia, a bit heavily grievances, what effective measures would you be applying for the safety of migrant workers during pandemic, and what strategy will you follow and suggestions to give the government of Nepal to recover the potential loss in remittance of Nepal, which contribute more than a quarter of Nepal's GDP in the aftermath of the pandemic? The third question is also to Richard. One of intervention area is advocacy for repatriation and reintegration of migrant workers. How can we support Nepal government for sustainable reintegration program at local level? There is greater opportunity for reinitiating reintegration program, but need assistance to local level. For your information, we are doing those advocacy, including developing recommendations and PIL cases. Maybe you heard. The fourth question, where I'll end, is my question to the ambassador. How many Nepalese migrant workers are stranded in your respective countries? Number of workers who have lost their jobs, question mark, and how they are sustaining there. So maybe ambassador want to briefly comment on it, and then we'll go to Richard. Maybe you have to unmute yourself. Please unmute yourself. Yes, now we can hear you.
Okay. Once again, thank you, Dr. Pramod. I think I have included all the questions answered. Even the numbers I said, approximately 1,500 people are we are thinking to go back home country, and at the moment we have already a data of almost 619 people. So we had a first and the second batch flight, which was already done in the last month, and we have prepared for another flight, which is on the coming 10th of July. So in terms of the planning and the policy of the government, I think we have to, we as an embassy, we have to wait government instructions and the directions to go ahead to reintegrate our people here, especially while talking about to safeguard their job at the moment. But what I would like to share with you here, our government's major priority is to safeguard our people health, safety, and the security. So our main focus is to make sure they are safe at the moment, and also they are secure. I think it will take a little more time because we just cannot predict at the moment because it's ongoing. The pandemic is ongoing. We are in the pandemic at the moment. So I don't think, any kind of prediction yes, but we can plan, we can do the assessment, we can think what we can do in the future. But at the moment, I think we have to wait for some time to see the changes, how it goes. Then we can plan well. So as an embassy, we will wait the instruction from the government, and we have been doing this actually. We have been suggesting to our government about what we can do. Previously, also when there was a need of the migrant workers to go back home country, we hosted a couple of meetings, webinar. We discussed among our friend ambassadors of the GCC and MENA region, including Malaysia. We did a couple of meetings that time as well, and we gave our suggestion to the government before these repatriation flights started. So, I mean, we have been doing this actually. We have been suggesting to the government, but again, this is not the one party involvement. Several things, several party has to be in to decide, to plan. Here we are talking about repatriation at the moment. So how we can again think of the reintegration? I mean, we can think, we can plan, but as I said earlier, we have to wait for some time. Again, because most of the countries we can see, still the flights are not regular. Only the emergency flights and the rescue flights are happening at the moment. So I think we have to wait and see for some time. And I'd like to talk a little bit on, Saru Madam inquiry, her concerns actually where she's working to protect the women's. I must tell her that we as an embassy, in the Embassy of Nepal, we are not only helping those are with the document. We are helping the people, women or the men, those who are without document, undocumented, because this is the time we cannot see. I mean, they are the Nepalese national, so our responsibility is to help them, to support them. We don't even see, but we want to make sure they are Nepali. We have some identification. If identified they are Nepali, then definitely we do. So that's what we are doing. I mean, we have been sending a couple of women every month to Nepal. Only thing that we don't post it is in the Facebook with their name, because we have to think of their confidential the rights as well. So but we are doing that. We are sending them, we are purchasing tickets, we are doing their free medical for them. So if you have any women in Oman that you think they are in the desperate need of the embassy or the government attention, we are as embassy always there to support them, any kind of support. So that's what we are doing here.
Richard, can you move to Richard?
Okay, thank you. So the question from the colleague in Malaysia, I don't think there's any set guideline on how to respond to a crisis like this. There are guidelines to support missions and how they engage with various partners to improve services for migrant workers that have been implemented by Sri Lanka and Philippines. But I think in this situation, what is needed is that we bring together, if I were in Malaysia and I were an NGO, or I would bring together all the key players and interface with the mission and say, how can we make a support plan for this migrant return situation, address all of their basic needs. So to come up with the missions with a support plan and then decide who does what. I think it really requires coordination at that level. Now, ILO has received some funding from the Swiss government to support NRNA to work hand in hand with the missions in certain countries, including Malaysia. So this will just be kicking off in the week ahead. So I would ask the colleague who asked the question to please send me your email into the chat box, and I'll link you up with our program coordinator in this area. But we have to move fast and use these resources we have with the Swiss to support migrants in these target countries with NRNA, with the missions, and importantly, with the civil society organizations. They're critical here. But having a more coordinated approach is important. We can achieve more. On the question on municipal level support, so ILO, we've done a few things, and one is how we can provide more coordinated support at federal level so that they can deliver more support to municipal level. So just last Thursday, we pulled together World Bank, the Swiss, DFID. We met the secretaries at Ministry of Labor, MOLES, and said, what can we do to support you with this reintegration program for migrants. So by the end of the next week, we will have a support plan for the ministry of what we're going to do at that level. Keeping in mind things like the Prime Minister's Employment Program, it doesn't function yet. It's just been a way to move money quickly at the end of last year to municipalities without any planning and support. Employment service centers are basically non-existent. The people aren't trained. They're not prepared to provide support for migrants. So a lot of needs there. So I think very quickly, we need to move down to municipal levels. Those select a certain number of municipalities which will have a heavy, high return burden of migrants and provide integrated support on employment programs. And I think those programs have to be based on a strong labor market analysis of what's happening in the municipality, where the different growth segments are, where the opportunities are. And if you start with that, you can build a comprehensive plan that looks at the skills that are required and the services that are required. So the skills gaps, how you link people to opportunities, what kind of entrepreneurship programs are in place, and what kind of jobs there are already or could be there, what kind of substitution may take place because of Indian workers have left. So a range of things. If you look at it at municipal level, even if you had discussions at ward level, it's very important. And then decide which partners do what. So I see that that's really critical that we move on that very fast. Now, another thing is the dialogue aspect. Now, Saru mentioned that women face a lot of difficulty when they return back to the municipalities to seek work. There needs to be a special coalition of women's organizations and support groups for women at municipal level so they can engage with government and these services to make sure their special needs are met. Otherwise, they will be marginalized from this process. So we do have some models that we've done with this DFID Work and Freedom program. When women do come together and form coalitions, they access the social protection programs more frequently, and they also improve their livelihood situation. So it is possible. And overall, we need dialogue with civil society and unions at local level to receive these migrants and provide them the support they need. So hopefully, we can all the development partners, can work together in a cohesive way and really respond to this crisis, because ILO alone, the government alone cannot do it by themselves. And local government more than ever needs our full support. Back to you, thank you.
Thank you, Richard. I think our ambassador has to leave. She has sent me a message. So there are a few more questions for her, but maybe other panelists can address because this is related to policy and all. Let me go to second round of questions. Like it is also for the ambassador, like high percentage of Nepalese workers from Gulf and Malaysia are losing their job by the COVID. So is there any plan of the Nepal government to manage this crisis? I mean, anyone can share it because it's not only to her to respond, it's the government of plans policies, particularly the foreign employment, and how can we manage the huge number of returning migrants? Also, I would like to know how is the current situation of labor market in destination countries. Second question is for Khagendra Dhakal. Shall we provide skill training and promote the foreign employment or focus on job creation within the nation? Third question is also for Excellency. A woman migrant worker has been detained since 3 months in Dubai, and government is changing the law to return the reintegration process, especially if visa cancel will be fined. Do migrants still have to pay high price ticket to return? What is the why is this fine about? Is it not the right to return home? Another is also for her, like how can mission help in this same process and all? The next question is for Saru Joshi. She talked about fear in the minds of migrant workers. Don't you think inferiority complex is also a big psychological problem, especially due to the fact that intellectuals and government itself is giving the impression that migration to foreign country for job is not a good thing? I think migration is a normal phenomenon everywhere in the world. No need to downgrade it. After migrant workers are doing fantastic job for helping the country and the society. Another question is like this, it's not a question, it's thanking the ambassador for her good job. Other question is, will there be any follow-up document after this session for us to review or go through? I think the organizers can mention about it. Whoever want to respond can start.
Dr. Pramod, I just want to intervene. Sorry for the interruptions in between. I'm leaving, as already he mentioned on behalf of me. For the questions related to UAE, that is not my work area. My area is Oman. So as long as Oman, issue of the Oman, our people are happy. The rate what they are paying at the moment to the air flights, they are very happy. They are saying a lot of appreciation to the embassy. So I'm happy for that. But again, for other country, other GCC country, we have embassies over there. So embassies are the responsible for that territory. So I'm sorry I'll not be able to. But if you have any inquiry, anything related to, my area, anything in the future, kindly please connect me. I have mentioned my email address here, and Dr. Pramod can provide you my contact number as well. And I really wish all the best for all of you. And I'm really sorry, my apology. I'm not able to be here for the long time. I want to hear, although I want to hear all of you, because I have also the repatriation flights here, so I have to coordinate. And thank you so much once again. Thank you, Dr. Pramod, and thank you, Mr. Mohan Krishna Shrestha. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Khagendra ji, maybe you will respond.
Okay. Thank you, Mohanji. There is a question that about. Let me quickly. Yeah. Shall we provide skill training and promote the foreign employment, or focus on job creation within the nation? I guess skill training benefits us from local employment, national employment scheme and foreign employment both. I personally do not think that foreign employment is a bad idea. It's a global phenomenon. It will happen in any way. However, creating when one has a skill, that gives confidence to the person, and the person can contribute to nation. And even though he or she opts to go abroad, and again, the remittance that we are gaining now will multiply. When now we have 1% of Nepalese migrant workers are only skilled. So if someone goes for foreign employment with a skill, then even the small number of migrant workers can multiply the amount of remittance that we've been receiving. So both way, it benefits the country and the economy. However, I suggest, I would be of opinion that we should go for self-sufficiency economy for that national job creation campaign and the enterprises or entrepreneurship initiative will cater the job experience need and aspiration to be in the country first. So I think I would address this question that way. Did I answer it? Well, Pramodji, do I have to jump to other question too, or you give floor to other speakers?
If you want, you can briefly comment on it, or else you can come back.
Yeah. Okay. I've been looking at some comments here sitting in the chat box. They talking about how we gonna recommend.
I think I will come to that question because I'm collecting the questions. I'll come.
Okay. Okay. Can I quickly talk on the skill thing that someone just said something about the skills? Well, for skill, someone said conduct product or service-based training. Yes, I do agree with that. And of course, the duration of the training can vary as per the needs. So we need the feasibility study. What are national needs? What are local needs? And if we if a national goal is okay, we still keep our foreign employment opportunity open, then we need to understand the global market, the change market after COVID, also to skilling, upskilling, and the reskilling initiative, I guess. And that's what I have to say. Thank you. Thank you, Pramodji. You can give to other speakers.
Ma'am, would you like to respond? Please unmute yourself.
Ramoji, are you asking me?
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
giving.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, sorry. I was a bit disoriented. There was a question from Sangat ji, that why that migrant workers is still not yet respected and downgraded, and then isn't it a natural phenomena? I think if we really see the past, that how political system policymaker was seeing the migration is something that they were either in denial or not really concentrating to really to make it a dignified work. It was easy remittance flow. That's why the country was supported. But whenever the rights of migrant worker came in between, there was the policymaker, the political parties were saying that, oh, these are the youthful people we would require. Why do they spend their, why do they give their best of life to other countries? So a kind of denial, a kind of that was there, and still it is taking time to really accept that it is a normal phenomena. It's not only the remittance, it's the skill. If I have to say, I want to say that the issue of social inclusion is not only the political party who brought this into the center stage, but it is the remittance, the Tarai people, who were really neglected before. Now with the remittance, they were able to buy land, they were able to make a home. The Dalit people, they were, the existence, the voice that the remittance gave to them was really something valuable. So still, easily taking migration and respecting the dignity of work, it is still a gap. But then we have to take it from a different angle. There was a question from the Abhiramji as well, not to me, but if the network is not working, Abhiramji, maybe other can also. If you ask me, then I'll respond to that.
Okay. Richard, would you like to comment? Okay.
No, I think I'm good. Nothing direct.
Okay. There are other questions for Richard. So let me look at her round of questions. The question is for Richard: how can we support these migrant workers considering current situation? As Richard said, entrepreneurship, collaboration with right people, in empowerment, help workers get connected with people to people. Hearing migrant workers can save lots of families' life and migrant workers' life. This is like a mix of comment and questions. The other question is from a scholar from India who says that, how can Nepal government support migrant worker who's coming back from India, and how they and their kids will get support in Nepal? Other question is also for Ambassador, like 90% out of 87 returnee women whom we quarantine have experienced wage theft by their employer. Is there any incentive by our mission to address this issue from the embassy? So these are the questions we have so far. Maybe Richard can comment on it. You have to unmute you.
Thank you. So I think the migrant return. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
My internet is not too good.
Yeah.
So the question about returnees from India, I think that's especially challenged because if you look at where they're going, they're also some of the poorest areas in the country. And we also know that the likelihood that those will go back sooner than later is also there, with the seasonal work, that they could still return more quickly than those workers to GCC and Malaysia. But overall, I think the responses have to be the same at the local level in terms of building that what I had said earlier, but how we can really build a strong employment response at local levels. It really has to start there. And there are temporary measures like the infrastructure programs, the Prime Minister's Employment Program, Prime Minister's Agriculture Program. These things have to really take root at the local level. But then there are also longer term issues of how we can improve social protection for informal sector workers. The government had announced schemes last year, but has not yet delivered on that. It's a very complex thing. And I think that has to be delivered in the long term. And the biggest thing we need really is a stronger enabling environment to allow micro and small enterprises to thrive in the country. And for that, we need to improve the policy environment and really address some of those key constraints, value chains and tax structures that really make it hard for small businesses to grow and create the jobs that are needed. Ultimately, I think we need an open economy in the country. And sometimes when we talk about prohibiting foreign workers or reducing foreign workers or substituting or not allowing imports to come in to substitute local production, these are nice kind of short-term responses, but sometimes they inhibit the kind of dynamic growth we need in an economy that can create jobs. So we have to be careful sometimes with restrictions and short-term measures because they actually make it harder for businesses to grow. One of the biggest foreign investment challenges in the country is it's very difficult to bring in foreign workers to manage companies in that early stage when they build the business in Nepal. And that's why you see Nepal has some of the lowest foreign investment rates in the country. That ultimately hurts job creation, and it means people have to go outside to seek jobs. So I think it's time Nepal looks towards Southeast Asia, some of those dynamic countries, Indonesia, Thailand, others that have been less restrictive in allowing foreign investment, less restrictive in SMEs, and less restrictive in even foreign workers to allow that countries those economies to grow. So that's kind of the long-term views that we have. Over to you. Thank you.
Anyone want to respond before we go to the last round of questions? Okay, maybe there are a few questions for all the panelists. So if there is any questions that is missed out, or if you want to address it, you can come during your answer. The first question is only for Saruji. In your opinion, what should be the best model of repatriation and reintegration for migrants? How can we achieve it? There are two questions for all the panelists. One, what recommendation would you like to give to the government of Nepal to meet the challenges that will erupt post-COVID-19? Second question is also for all the panelists. Is there chances of conflict or political instability in Nepal? What are the security implications for Nepal from the returned migrant workers back home? So this is for everyone. One question is on conflict and possibility of conflict and political instability. Second is on what recommendation would you like to give to the government of Nepal? And third question is only for Saruji. So let me start with Saruji and then other panelists.
Okay. On the question of Sapna Baselji from Malaysia, that what would be the repatriation and reintegration strategy for Nepal? I would say that the study of Nepal Policy Institute also reveals that 70% of migrant workers are not aware of what are the available opportunities back home. What are the loan, one-digit loan? What are the Prime Minister's, employment fund program? What are the President's welfare empowerment, some programs? So those information are not there. We claim that our embassies are, providing information. The embassy has to be robust and really share the information that back home, what are the available opportunity. So let's, the reintegration program, we should not be, planning for them. What are their aspirations? What are their concerns? That has to be addressed. I think for this Nepal Policy Institute study will contribute on that. So we need to give them choice. Umbrella approach will not work, but the separate, different reality of migrant workers have to be addressed differently. And they would need household support. They would need, psychosocial support. They would need market. And the reintegration model globally is not, we do not get an ideal model because it depends on country to country. The context is different. So to accommodate the local reality and the capacity of migrant worker, that has to be matched, and we have to make it flexible. But I would definitely say that at least 3 years to 4 years support would be required. Otherwise, it would be costly for the country as well for the repatriation, and a very comprehensive repatriation plan is required. The women migrant worker, where they have not paid 1,500 as a registration fee, when they come back, men, they get services compensation. If there is a serious illness, they get 700,000 rupees. But women migrant worker, they are treated as a unequal citizen. So repatriation reintegration program has to take care of that. That is why Intergenerational Feminist Forum, which I represent, we have submitted a charter of demand to the government of Nepal, also to a memo to the to UN agency as well. I hope Richard has also received from WENI. So that is the repatriation reintegration plan cannot exclude women migrant workers at all. That is one thing. And the second is that post-COVID situation, I think we are not yet there to discuss on post-COVID. We are still need to discuss on the, during COVID. On the third question, that returning migrant workers, will it be a political, how the political scenario will be? I think there is some fear to the government that if the big number of volume of migrant worker comes and they will demand, it will be a threat for the government as well. That is not a sustainable strategy. They are our citizens. We have to face them and we have to respect them. We have to listen to them. They have all rights to return back home. If the political system changes. There are many government comes and goes, but the migrant worker, the real citizens' voices has to be heard. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Khagendra ji, would you like to comment? Khagendra ji, you have to unmute yourself.
I think just to add something to what Saruji just said, Nepal Policy Institute, it's a global diaspora knowledge platform and think tank. We focus specifically how we should handle this reintegration. So in few days from now, maybe let's say in a week time, we'll be able to release our report and disseminate our report so that it will give advice to government of Nepal what they should do at the central level and at the province and at the local level. I definitely give a clue that there is a capacity gap in the administration. So like Richard said earlier, maybe certain things central government has to do, but we have to empower our local level and actually the local wisdom, because end of the day returnee go to their village, and that's where the skill database has to be recorded, and also their social remittances should be care, and we should have we all agreed today that entrepreneurship, self-employment opportunity we should create. And for that, there are some ways that I also recommended, like a one village, one product stuff that has been already tested in Thailand. And so these kind of things, and the Philippines model of social enterprising model with a soft loan and a subsidized loan kind of thing. But for them, these people won't know how those things work. So what we should do is at the village level, a local level, I'm talking about a rural municipality thing when I'm talking about village, there should be a business counseling desk in each rural municipality that has to counsel these migrant workers, the returnees, and they should help them how the enterprising model should be and how individual should act. I think that's about the recommendation. So in a few days' time, we will release our report and then hope that will inform the public. And for the political insecurity thing, yeah, I tend to agree with Saruji that because these are the Nepalese national, they're coming back from, and they have a dissatisfaction, and they have a look at the Arab Spring. And look at this Wall Street movement, Occupy Wall Street movement. These all came from the youth. When we do not engage our youth in a constructive way in productive activities, and that can result certain consequence, but the government should not suppress, but we should capitalize their energy, strength. I already told that that's the youthfulness of the country of youth, that we should capitalize this strength and then convert this youth energy to the skill force. I think that's where we should move toward. Thank you, Pramoji. I think I addressed.
Richard,
related to what I said.
the last maybe comment from the Richard.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we can hear you.
Sorry, I had a problem with my dog unplugging the cable. So I just want to thank you for letting me join this today. And you know, as an international organization, I'm very reluctant to provide advice on the political situation, particularly since my own country is in such trouble, exacerbated by this crisis. So I think we have to be humble in what we say. And as you know, I'm an American, so. But finally, I mean, I do think that it comes back to how well we support federalism and local governments. And I was pleased that the Ministry of Labor, the secretary, acting secretary, said it's very much really falls on the shoulders of the municipalities. So this is a big test for federalism, a big test for this government. And I do hope that we can work very well to support the municipal governments here, because they really carry all the burden right now. And I look forward to seeing the report from Khagendra and others, and we can utilize that in our work here. And I found this session very useful, so thank you. Back to you.
Thank you, Richard. Thanks to all the distinguished panelists and our participants. Here we come to the end of the program. There are a few unanswered questions, but due to time limitation, we have to end it here. I'd like to welcome Mr. Janak Raj Sharma, Chairman and Director of NEMUN, to give vote of thanks.
Namaskar, everyone. On behalf of Center for Diplomacy and Development, Nepal Institute for International Cooperation and Engagement, Nepal Police Institute, and Nepalese Migrant Unity Network, NEMUN, I would like to thank all of you to participate at this webinar on the challenge and opportunity of foreign employment in past COVID days. Especially thanks to respected Mohan Krishna Sir, Chairman of this important program today, and Her Excellency Sarmila Parajuli Dhakal, who made this interaction program meaningful and gave your important expression as well as your valuable time. Thanks to Mr. Richard Howard, Country Director of the International Labour Organization, and Mrs. Saru Joshi, Gender and Migrant Specialist, IGFF, and Mr. Khagendra Dhakal, NPI Chairman, for your important thoughts. And also thanks to Dr. Pramod Jaiswal, Research Director, NICE, who moderate the program from the beginning. We would like to express our gratitude to the organizers, CDD, NICE, NPI, and NEMUN, for giving us the opportunity to share this important topic with everyone. As organizer, we would like to thank all the participants who accepted our invitation through webinar. We believe that today's debate sheds light on the plight of migrants and the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead. We would also like to thank all the dignitaries who have contributed directly and indirectly to the success of today's program, saying that they will bring various contemporary issues among them in the future. For your kind information, Nepalese Migrant Unity Networks is working for rights of Nepalese migrants since 10 years. We have several cases to whom we rescue. We hope that the journalist friends will also help in bringing today's issues to the public level. Once again, thank you everyone for your valuable time and participation. Thank you so much. Namaskar.